Season 2, Episode 6 of The Mandalorian, the review, right here, along with some excellent Easter eggs you may have missed out on, right here on All Comics Access. Hey, welcome to All Comics Access. It is your host with the most, Joe, the Beast McCoy, aka The Mixed Marvel. And, this episode of The Mandalorian, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I can't lie, you think it's going to be one of those in-between episodes that bridge between the main story and something else, aka a filler. But this did not disappoint at all. And I mean, it was an episode that was short and sweet, so to speak. I mean, the shortest episode, I think, so far out of the season, but definitely was far from average. And I don't want to wait. Let me get ready to proceedings. But before I do get into proceedings, please make sure to like this video to help it out. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, because I will be bringing you Star Wars awesomeness and geeky stuff week to week. Alright, so now let's get into this stuff. First and foremost, this wonderful episode was directed by none other than Robert Rodriguez. If you have heard his name around the entertainment world, you're knowing your stuff, because he is one that is known for doing action, and certainly this episode was full of it. So what was pretty cool, we see Grogu and Din Djarin bonding on the ship. It's great to see that, Din Djarin has a bit of appreciation for the Force now. Now that he has a bit of an understanding of it from Ahsoka's lovely explanation to him, and seeing what can Grogu truly do. So, he tests him with his favorite little metallic ball thing. And, Grogu was kind of filling it out. And also we see that touching moment when Din Djarin's realizing, okay, well, I would keep you if I could, but if this is what you need to do to grow as an individual, hey, so be it. Kind of like a proud father moment. And then we see them arrive at tython. If you did watch my previous video, you remember I gave a brief explanation of tython, but just in case you're not well aware, tython's a very significant planet when it comes to the Force, in particular with the Jedi Order. So upon arriving to the planet, we see that this seeing stone that he's supposed to go upon is a little bit high up. It's pretty interesting to see Din Djarin just like, hey, alright, so what's going on? He sees Grogu playing with some butterflies, and he thinks, what's this kid doing? In actuality, these butterflies are known as carrier butterflies. We've seen them before on Endor, and we definitely know they're used to carry messages. Once Grogu's in a great state of mind, he's opened himself up to the Force. You see that everything's activated. We see that wonderful array of the Force rise around him. But what's even more fascinating, we notice those little markings down near the stone itself. And I found that pretty interesting. It made me remember the same thing I had seen in times past, in particular in the Rebel series. And some of you may know, these are known as Jedi Runes. So if you've seen the Rebel series, you definitely recognize them there, and they've been spotted in different times throughout the Star Wars universe. But I thought it was pretty awesome how it explored the ancient writings of the Jedi Order that was there in times past. Who do we see arrive on the planet? Dun dun dun, the Slave One. And who do we know owns the Slave One? None other than the OG, the legend, possibly the greatest known bounty hunter in the Star Wars universe throughout time, Boba Fett. And the Slave One's a pretty cool ship in itself. It was pretty awesome. It originated originally with Jango Fett, which we know to be Boba Fett's father from the Clone Wars in times past. And actually, the ship was originated on Uvu the Fourth, and it was stolen by Jango Fett to replace his ship, the Jaster's Legacy. And if you remember, basically the Star Wars Bounty Hunter PS2 game kind of gave you the little bit of background on that. Now what's crazy is, of course, Din Djarin's like, trouble's about to go down, so he tries to grab baby Grogu, and that's not happening because that barrier of the Force is so well protected, he's unable to break past it. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, this stone is reaching out to the entire Star Wars galaxies. But then Boba Fett, openly confronts him and says, hey, I'm not here for the child. I'm not here for you. I just want my armor. And of course, Din Djarin's trying to protect also Mandalorian tradition. He's like, I don't know this guy. But while there was a bit of hesitancy on Din Djarin's part, how should I say this? Boba Fett pulled an ace card, so to speak. I was shocked by who he had on his side. He says, hey, I have a sharpshooter, and should you not give me what I need, it's going to be a problem. And who is it that we see sitting in the cut? It is none other than lovely lady assassin Fennec Shand. And we definitely remember her from season 1. She essentially was left for dead. And at the end of that particular episode, we had wondered, who's this figure standing over? I was mistaken. I thought possibly Moff Gideon. But it apparently had to have been Boba Fett. And of course, she's grateful and indebted to Boba Fett for saving her life. So she agreed to basically work with him on whatever missions and things he wanted to carry out. It was pretty crazy. We saw that she had cybernetics essentially that Boba Fett gave her to help her survive and get along. And what fascinates me too, if you're much like I am, when we were younger, we remember the Return of the Jedi, and unfortunately at the moment it seemed like Boba Fett's demise when he ended up in that Sarlacc. But I have a bit of a theory, and this has been discussed amongst many Star Wars fans, the possibility of him surviving could be due to the armor that he did possess at the time. So if we remember from the first episode, we saw that the Beskar armor that Din Djarin possessed really helped him when he confronted the Krayt Dragon. Krayt Dragons are predators of the Sarlaccs. So basically, if someone like Din Djarin could survive with his armor fighting a Krayt Dragon that eats the Sarlaccs, then I guess it would have made sense that a Sarlacc couldn't naturally digest armor in a sense. Maybe the metal conflicted somehow. But it's just so great to see Boba Fett back and them finally, exploring his character. We saw an Imperial troop carrier touching down upon the planets, and then we see the devious stormtroopers ready to strike. And what I thought was pretty cool, if you notice, one of the particular stormtroopers that is giving orders has what they call orange pauldron on him, that thing on the shoulder essentially. That means he is a unit leader, so he's the one that basically is a shot caller, so to speak. Nothing meant more to me than seeing Boba Fett kicking butt. I mean, to prove the depth of his amazing character, he didn't have his armor or his traditional Mandalorian weapons that we remember from times past. So first and foremost, we see him, putting the cycler rifle to good use. And then, the dude is using his gafty stick like a boss. Now, what's pretty interesting, it alludes to the fact that when he got out of the Sarlacc bowels of depth, or whatever you want to call it, he had at some point met up with the Tusken Raiders, and we saw how lethal they are with those particular weapons. So I would be safe to assume that in order to even get those weapons, he must have some sort of camaraderie with them, which is pretty awesome. We saw Fennec, doing what she does best. Some of that awesome sharpshooting technique. But then, the stormtroopers got kind of fed up and they busted out the big guns, or should I say, the big gun. The E-Heavy Blaster. If this particular weapon looks familiar to you, it's because we remember it from The Empire Strikes Back. And also, if you enjoy playing the Battlefront game, much like I have in times past, I definitely have seen the severity of what this thing could do. It's pretty crazy. We see that, Fennec was in a bit of a pinch. She was pinned down, but it was pretty awesome to see her kick that boulder, use that to her advantage. Like a bit of an Indiana Jones moment, seeing that big boulder rolling down and taking them out, which I thought was pretty interesting. Before you know it, when all the chips are down, we see that Din Djarin and Fennec are just there, fighting for dear life. Who comes out of the woodworks? None other than the great one, the legend, Boba Fett. And I mean, man, I can't put into words what it meant to see him go to work. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Once he put that armor on, you got to see him put it to good use. What was pretty awesome, got to see him use the knee darts, which I've not yet seen in live entertainment in times past. And basically the stormtroopers know that their fate was sealed. So I thought this next moment was crazy. When they retreated, they got back on the ships. They thought they were in the clear. And I mean, man, he takes them out with a good old 2-for-1 special. I mean, whoo! So if anyone has any doubt, any of the haters, have never big fans of Boba Fett, we can lay that to rest. That this guy lives up to the creed of being one of the greatest bounty hunters in Star Wars history. It's the beauty of Star Wars, especially the Mandalorian. Just when you think things are looking up, they snatch it away from you, because the next moment I was not prepared for. Out of nowhere, what happens? Boom! The Razor Crest is destroyed. My heart dropped. I was like, whoa, not the Razor Crest. Yeah, I was just as stunned probably as Din Djarin was at that moment. I mean, Moff Gideon, whoo! That guy is a tactical genius, like the hit at that precise moment. Now, what was pretty wild, man, right after that, destroying of the ship also, Moff Gideon released the Dark Troopers. And what was crazy, like we know from times past, if you played the Dark Forces game or read any different Star Wars lore, we know that the Dark Troopers are top of the line individuals, and I have to tell you, it was pretty crazy seeing them into action. They are an elite force used by the Empire, and Moff Gideon definitely knew how to use them to his advantage. So seeing them snatch up baby Grogu, woo, that was craziness, man. But the next part I found very touching afterwards. That Boba Fett, he jumped into Slave One. He goes to track and sees essentially where they're going and figuring out a game plan. Because you know what? Even though he had his armor back, he is an individual of honor. And he definitely, in a sense, follows a creed of integrity. And says, hey, even though I got my armor back, I agreed to keep this child safe with you, so I'm going to see this through. Now, what I thought was pretty amazing to really solidify that this armor belongs to Boba Fett and that Jango Fett, his father, rightfully had it. Basically, Boba Fett shows his family tree, and what's pretty cool, all of this is written in Mandoa, and we see that it's certified with an embedded chain code. Now, what's pretty crazy, we've heard for years people say, oh, Jango and Boba aren't real, but this solidifies right here. And also Boba Fett makes sure to stress to Din Djarin, hey, my father Jango Fett was a foundling. And he also participated in the Mandalorian Civil Wars, which I thought was pretty awesome. So to give you a little bit of background about what the Mandalorian Civil Wars are, as we remember from the Clone Wars series, Obi-Wan Kenobi gave a little bit of insight to Anakin at the time that, him and his master before that was with him, Qui-Gon Jinn, had participated in the Mandalorian Civil War because they were protecting the Duchess at the time, Duchess Satine. And we know that there was a little bit of romance between her and Obi-Wan at the time. And essentially, Duchess Satine was part of what they called the New Mandalorians group. And you had the traditionalists that were fighting against them. Well, the traditionalists lost and they were exiled. But later on, these traditionalists that had been exiled became Death Watch. And as we know, Death Watch, were pretty lethal. And essentially the offspring of Death Watch became Children of the Watch. Essentially what is Din Djarin's sect, as we learn from a few episodes ago. So I thought this was pretty fascinating to see them explore all the different facets of the Mandalorian culture, which is very fascinating in itself. And it was pretty awesome, and I think in general throughout this time of this series, to see the exploration of what's going on with Din Djarin learning, hey, there's different Mandalorians, and there possibly may not be just one way to doing this thing. So it's pretty awesome to see them explore this more in depth. As they jump into Slave One, head over to the planet Navarro. Din Djarin goes sees his old friend Cara Dune. As we remember from a couple episodes ago, she is the marshal at this given time, and he needs her assistance in order to get our Baby Yoda back. I know he's Grogu, but he's always Baby Yoda to me. So what's pretty interesting, she reminds Din Djarin that, hey, right now I'm part of the new Galactic Republic, so I have to fly straight. But of course, when he says Grogu's been taken, well, you know, she bends the rules a little bit, thankfully. Now she pulls up the monitor and shows Din Djarin what he needs, and essentially he wants to find the right kind of individual to help him get Baby Yoda. Miggs Mayfield, who was a Imperial sharpshooter, and we remember he got in some trouble last season, so he's going to figure out some crazy game plan to get him out and use him for this mission to get Grogu back. Now what's crazy, we see Moff Gideon is still in the Arcane Light cruiser, and as we remember in times past, this is the same type of cruiser that appeared in Star Wars Rebels. Just really loved, you had to walk in and see Grogu just throwing these stormtroopers around like rag dolls. I'm like, what? That's wild. But essentially, it left me a little bit concerned because, you know, on one end the kid is trapped, but also we do know that, you know, by giving in to anger and things like that, that could jeopardize him for possibly getting a little bit closer to the darker side of the Force. But like I said, only time will tell. We definitely know, I mean, being kidnapped is traumatic in itself, but also being detached from his quote-unquote adopted father, Din Djarin, does leave him a bit hurt. And it's kind of crazy to see how heartless Moff Gideon is, because he's like, oh, they're the stormtroopers. No, just stand back, let him do what he's doing. Eventually, you know, as the little guy gets tired out, Moff Gideon goes in to taunt him and, you know, basically picks with him a little bit and sees that he's limited in what he can do. And that's when he taunts him with the sacred weapon known as the Dark Saber. And for those who do not know, the Dark Saber is essentially an amazing weapon that's not just phenomenal for combating, but also is a symbol, most importantly, of the ruler of Mandalore. It has been upon the planet for many generations, and we definitely know from a couple episodes ago, essentially, that Bo-Katan was on the search for this. And we remember from times past, you know, in particular in the very series, that Bo-Katan did wield this weapon and ruled Mandalore for a period of time with it. So I'm very sure she's trying to get her hands on this particular weapon. But now that we see Moff Gideon wielding it, ooh, we know that's going to be a problem. What I thought was pretty crazy, it was kind of like, ooh, a little rough, man, seeing him stun Baby Yoda. And I noticed right away, I was like, huh, I've seen that stun technique before. And sure enough, same stunning technique that they use on Princess Leia in the New Hope movie. And actually, that whole scene was set up exactly like the prison scene in A New Hope, which I thought was pretty cool. Alright, everyone. So that pretty much wraps up everything here at All Comics Access. You know, essentially, I would love to know your thoughts on the episode. What's some of your cool theories you have in mind for what could be coming up next? You know, will they get Grogu in time? Will that Force beacon, so to speak, that he sent out from Tython, will it attract a particular Jedi we might know? Or could it attract a number of Jedis? Because essentially that could have been perceived as a distress beacon. you know, I'm pretty excited to see who pops up, because what's crazy, this series has been pulling from the deepest depths of Star Wars lore everywhere, so it could surprise us. I mean, and who knows, even a random Sith or somebody we are not expecting will pop up too. So I'm excited to see what happens, but please leave your comments down below on what you think could be coming up in the next episode, or some cool little details that you noticed in this episode that I may have missed as well. And also, just to let you know, I will be running a giveaway very soon, so please stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, so you can be first to know about that. Oh, and also hit the notification bell, just to be safe. And also, if you are in the mood for any cool little Mandalorian merchandise, please click the link out below. Little affiliate action always helps out the channel as well. And I know these are crazy wild times, but please don't give up. Stay awesome. May the Force be with you. And most of all, when you're feeling down and out, rise up and geek on.
If you see Francis, tell him I'm looking for him. I need to find him. Let me know where he is. He's gonna get served.